This week on Let's Talk Cabling, we're going to talk about training again and how important it is, to attract young people to the industry. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, project managers, estimators, IT personnel, and even customers. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content comes out? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, do me a favor and leave us a 5-star rating. And if we're not a 5-star rated show, let me know what I can do to make this a 5-star rated show. Those couple little steps helps us take on the algorithm, which helps us get the message out to everybody in the industry so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of the people in this industry. Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know, we do a live stream, right? We do it live after hours with Chuck Bowser, RCDD, where you get to submit your favorite questions about installation, certification, design, project management, career path, even training, and they get answered. They are recorded live. And if you can't watch because I'm driving my truck at 6 p.m. and I don't want to get into an accident, they are recorded and you can watch them on YouTube and also get distributed out to all the other podcast platforms. So you can still get to be part of that. This week, we're actually doing a special one. We're doing a live QA where people will submit their pictures and we'll do a QA on pictures sent to us. So make sure you catch this week's episode. Also, while this show is free and will always remain free, there are ways that you can help support the podcast so we can help offset all the costs that goes with running it. Check on the QR code on the screen right now. You can click on that link. You can send me a cup of coffee. You can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me after hours, of course. And we're also looking for corporate sponsorship. So if your corporate lines up with educate, encourage, and enrich, make sure that you get in touch with me. As I said in the beginning of the show, we're talking about training today. And training is one of those weird kind of nuances to our industry, right? People don't like to train their employees because they're afraid if I train him, that person's going to take my job because they're going to be better than me. That's the wrong attitude to have. When the economy goes in a downturn, like we're getting ready to probably hit now, companies, the first thing they want to cut out is the training budget when they need it the most. But not only do that, our industry really needs to shift. We need to attract younger people to our audience. And we're going to bring on somebody who I know via LinkedIn. Him and I have talked many times to discuss this. We're bringing on Grant Shmelzer from IEC Chesapeake. How you doing, Grant?
Chuck, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I've watched you guys on LinkedIn all the time. I love what you do, man. I really, really love it. Love seeing the posts. Just I got to put that out there first, right?
Well, yeah, thank you. It's a labor of love. I just got our yearly report from all of our social media platforms, and we're seeing a tremendous increase in activity, viewing, sharing, liking, clicking, all those fun things that we've all learned over the last couple of years.
Exactly, right. I'm by no means a social media expert, but I'm learning how to look at those reports and then take that information and say, well, this content seems to get more stuff than other stuff, and it's a learning process, right? There's more to it than just recording videos and then putting up on the internet. Let's just leave it at that, right?
Absolutely. We trial and error a lot of times, but we're getting a lot better at focusing in the messaging and getting our message as an organization out there.
Very cool. So now for those people in my audience who may not know who you are, why don't you tell us who you are and what company you work for?
Sure. Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending upon where you are and when you're viewing this, to all the listeners. My name is Grant Shmelzer. I'm the CEO of the Independent Electrical Contractors, the Chesapeake chapter. IEC Chesapeake is a regional trade association. We service companies and their employees in the Mid-Atlantic region primarily. However, We actually service around the world these companies and their employees because our industry is global. As an association, we are affiliated with our national association. IEC at the national level has over 50 chapters throughout the United States. Again, here in the Mid-Atlantic region, we approximately have over 160 companies that are affiliated with us that employ over 10,000 electrical and systems workers in the industry. We are domiciled, our main headquarters is in Maryland. However, we have training locations and members up and down the Eastern Seaboard. So while we claim to be just in the Mid-Atlantic, the reach goes a lot further. In fact, we currently have students in Germany enrolled in our apprenticeship program. We're actually in conversations with a company that is on U.S. military bases in Greenland. That's been an interesting conversation because training is the key. And what we like to think, and in your intro, our members really believe in educating their workforce.
Right.
Because they're not thinking short term, they're thinking the long term, which is
Right.
we are seeing a mass exodus due to retirement of skilled crafts workers, and they need to fill that vacuum that's being created.
And you kind of led right into my question. So, Mike Rowe is pushing big time, talking about how we need tradespeople. We definitely need tradespeople. And I don't remember if the stat came from him or if I heard it at a Bixie conference. They said that for every 5 people who retire, they're only replaced by 3, which is frightening because everybody wants to be a social media influencer, right? I want to be a TikToker, I want to be on Instagram and make money and stuff like that. Well, if you don't have electricity, if you don't have low voltage, you can't do any of that, right? What are your thoughts on attracting people to the electrical trade?
Yeah, I hadn't heard those statistics, but that doesn't surprise me. What I can share with the audience is here in the Mid-Atlantic, we're at a deficit in the electrical industry, and that includes the low voltage portion or the systems contractors portion of about 14%.
Wow.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Wow.
I think that number is actually greater because if you think about, and we're all in the construction industry here, if you think about our hospitals, if you think about our educational institutions, whether they be, our public school systems, our community colleges, our four-year institutions, they all have electrical departments in them. And I don't believe that Bureau of Labor Statistics takes that into account when formulating that statistical data information.
Yes,
So I think
statistics are just one of those things that you got to look at, right? Because I heard an old saying one time: statistics are just are numbers looking for a place to argue. And I think you are in the position because you're in the fight. You're seeing it daily, right? So that's why I think the statistics there, but I think what you think is going to be more important than what the statistics will tell us. And you're saying it sounds like it's even worse than what the statistics are saying. There's a huge there's a huge abrasive relationship between electricians and low voltage people, and I kind of know why, and I understand it a little bit, but we're just two brothers from a different mother, right? And you guys can't do electricians can't do anything without us. We can't do anything without electricians. We should really get along better. And you hit the nail right on the head because we want to wire up those data centers so the customers can have that stuff. But if you don't have the grid, you're not having a data center, right? So you guys do an apprenticeship program and you do training and stuff like that. How important do you think training is for both the electrical and the low voltage side?
Yeah. So we are state and federally approved to offer a 4-year electrical and 3-year low voltage or telecommunications apprenticeship program. We run over 900 apprentices combined between those two programs. We offer it both traditionally in a bricks and mortar facility, and especially in the low voltage world, telecommunications world, we offer that via live webcasting to our students, because the industries have a lot of nuances between them. And what we've recognized from hearing from the members, the companies, and their employees is the traditional electrician who's doing a new building, a home, they work more in those traditional hours, right? Crack of dawn until first
3.
part of the afternoon, right?
Yep.
But in the low voltage and telecommunications and systems integrators, that's not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had to adapt from where we started 8 years ago and when we rolled out the training program to go to a live delivery method for the most part, excluding labs, because the students can't necessarily get to a bricks and mortar location
Right.
because there's an outage, or they got to have the system back up because the business can't operate without the system. So
Mhm.
we've had to change our approach in terms of the delivery from where we started 8 years ago. But to me, it's extremely important. We're here to talk about low voltage, so I'm going to dive into that. If anybody ever wants to reach out and talk about the traditional electrical world, more than happy to do so.
Keep in mind, Grant, there's a lot of electrical contractors out there who do both electrical and low voltage. So feel free to, let's talk about both, because even though my show is really geared towards low voltage, I have electricians that listen to my show all the time.
Yep.
And I have electrical companies that listen to the show too. So like I said, we're cousins,
Yep.
for as far as electricians and low voltage stuff.
So, and that's, you hit the nail right on the head, Chuck. So what we're seeing in the industry is, it used to be just an electrical contractor. They did everything soup to nuts. You had your utility side of the electrical industry. That was a different animal. But now over the last, I'll say 5+ years, even though it's gone on for longer, the low voltage industry is continuing to evolve. So your traditional electrical contractors, they may have started a sister company or their cousin company, right?
Right.
Or they may just have a division within their existing electrical contracting company that specializes in low voltage. What does that look like? Is it fire alarm systems? Is it the security systems? Is it video surveillance systems? Structured cabling? All those different components that I know your viewers are familiar with, and we have limited time, so we won't get into that. But that's been the evolution of those electrical contractors. And I'll say the new businesses that have evolved over the last 5+ years to carve out that portion of the industry to do it better and faster than a traditional electrical contractor.
Mhm.
Let's look at our schools. Any new school that's being built has all those components in it in the low voltage world. More than likely, a school is being bid by an electrical contractor
Mm-hmm.
and a systems or low voltage contractor to perform that work. Now, bigger companies, again, they may have a division or a sister company where they're bidding it together.
Yep.
But you have, in many cases, 2 different types of electrical contractors performing that work.
I agree with that 100%. There's good companies and there's great companies, and the difference between them is their view on training. That's the difference between good and great. What age group do you find is most likely to take your courses?
Great question. So what we recognized as an organization, and if you look at the statistics from the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, the average age of an apprentice in most of the construction occupations was somewhere getting upwards of close to 30.
Wow.
Really high number.
Yeah, I would have
And
never expected that.
yeah, and what we've been able to accomplish over the last 3 to 4 years as an organization, we've been able to bring that number down significantly. We're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 23, 24 now,
Okay.
because we're reaching out to our young people and our partners in the K through 12 system, and we're getting them younger.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you targeting high school graduates?
So we're doing a little bit better than that. We're actually targeting high school juniors and seniors now,
Oh, wow.
and we're bringing them in, and it's called different things in different parts of the country in different states. But we are now running a school to apprenticeship program with our high school seniors where they work part-time, get paid for it, and they're taking year one of their apprenticeship while still in high school. So I call it AP. A lot of people know what AP is, advanced placement, but there's a uh, Princeton has a copyright on that, so I can't
Gotcha.
use that.
Gotcha.
But I believe it's AP for the trades.
Didn't we used to
And
call that work study when I was in high school?
yep, yep. So I can tell you, we have uh, from the county where you grew up. Currently have 5 high school seniors that are actually they just left the building, but they were here for their related instruction. Instead of reporting to work on Fridays, they come here during their high school day and they take year one of the apprenticeship program. The other 4 days a week, they're working, and then they go back to school in the afternoon hours and they get the classes that they need to graduate, because the key is they got to graduate high school.
Right. Right.
So we're running that program now in 4 different counties in Maryland. Um, we're also running pre-apprenticeship programs because in many cases throughout the country, every state has different graduation requirements.
Right.
It varies across the board. Because we touch so many states here, because we're
Yep.
small states, but we cross over boundaries. There's differences in Maryland compared to Virginia, compared to DC, compared to West Virginia in terms of what students need to graduate.
Right.
And in many cases, in order to graduate outside of the traditional classes, you need to have programs of study. Well, the problem is when you're selecting those programs of study, you have to make those choices as early as 8th grade sometime when you're going into your freshman year.
Hmm.
And I don't know many 8th graders or 9th graders or 10th graders that can make that decision.
Right. Yeah.
So we recognize the fact that there is a population of juniors that we can reach and we can impact in their senior year of high school and bring them into our industry, give them a career, not a job.
You've been
And,
listening to my show because I talk about career versus jobs.
and most importantly, at 21 years old, they can be a journey worker.
And that's making money right there. I didn't think about this till you said that you are currently having programs in high school. I just remembered my grandson, who's a junior in high school. I live in Florida now, and he lives down in the Lakeland, Plant City area. The high school he goes to, he told me just the other day when we were visiting last time, he's in a class learning about electricity. I wonder if that's the same program.
So I was in this last January or February, I spoke at the Florida Career and Technical Education Conference because my counterpart in the Tampa area and in the Fort Lauderdale area, they're very involved with working with the high schools. They had me come down and share what we're doing here in the region because they're looking to replicate that. So it wouldn't surprise me if you're starting to see that replicated in other parts of the country, because the simple fact of the matter is, whether you're old school and calling it VOTEC, or if you're new school and calling it career and technical education, CTE, the school systems don't have enough resources
Right.
to bring the number of individuals through high school programs because of the cost. So my belief is, and our organization's belief is, here in the Mid-Atlantic, we want to be part of the solution.
I like
So
hearing that. I
we're
like hearing that.
opening up our doors. So
Uh,
it's been very successful. I can tell you, when we started the program 4 years ago, with just in the traditional electrical industry, this coming June, I will have 10 students that started when they were in high school, graduated high school, and they are graduating the apprenticeship program at the age, age may vary slightly, but 20, 21 years old, they're going to be graduating this coming June.
that's
And the
amazing.
companies had 90% retention rate with the companies that they started with when they were in high school. They're still with those same companies today.
Yeah, because when you find a good employee, you don't want to let them go. Um, Let me ask you a question about maybe about how you have to fine tune your curriculum, right? So one of the things I learned, because I've been an instructor for I don't know, like 15 years, on and off, but full time now for over 10. And I'm dealing with people, fresh out of high school, deal with people my age, and everything in between. The common thing I find is most people in our industry are tactile learners. They love to put their hands on things, right? And terminate and test and stuff like that. But I found that the younger students learn differently than the older students. So I had to modify the way that I teach in order to resonate with that, right? What are your thoughts? Have you fine tuned your curriculum to since you're targeting that younger audience?
So we are in a paradigm shift, and I hate using all these buzzwords, but I don't know what else to use. But
Right.
what you're going to see, what the industry is going to see is, and this was actually displayed at the IDL Championships this past November, is, I will say, from the manufacturer side of things, we are going to, they're beta testing, developing online labs, basically. So virtual reality.
Right.
So if you think about your grandson, I'm assuming, like most young people, he's playing one of the video games. For people our age,
Oh yeah.
it was the first evolution of Madden and that. But these young people, they have their goggles on.
Yes.
They're doing virtual reality. And what we're seeing is many manufacturers across all parts of the industry, they're going to virtual reality. Is that the end all be all? No. But it is shaping the way instruction is going to look for many years to come.
Right. Right.
And it's pretty cool. So
Well,
I think that's going to be a robust upgrade to the way training is done for the future.
gotcha. Gotcha. So let's shift the conversation a little bit. So we were focusing on training from like an apprenticeship kind of view. Let's look at training now from a company kind of view, right? And there's no denying you've even just said it just a few minutes ago that we have a tight labor market, right? Do you find that because of this current market we're in, are companies more interested in training?
So this is what I'm going to say. The federal government is responding. They have put more money into apprenticeship than they ever have in its history.
Wow.
They are continuing to advocate and allocate additional funding for apprenticeship and industry recognized credentials. And it's important for the viewers to understand that, because that money then trickles down to the state.
Absolutely does.
So for our viewers, contacting your local Department of Labor in most cases, may be called something different depending upon what state you are in. There is funding available in some way, shape, or form. So my belief is the investment that a company used to be hesitant to make in their employees because they were scared that they were going to jump ship
Right.
or become a competitor. I don't see it the way it was 10 years ago.
Gotcha.
So I believe that the excuses for the company are becoming less and less on wanting to train their employees.
Well, there's a huge benefit there, right? Because if you can hire somebody who's already gone through the apprenticeship training program and they're already a journeyman or have already gone through your low voltage program, that's a step up for them because they've got somebody who's already gone through that class. The disadvantage to somebody training their own people, and you hit the nail on the head, is, and you know this, technicians will leave to go to another job for literally 5 cents more an hour, right? So companies have always been kind of hesitant to invest in somebody, especially somebody who has very little loyalty or track record with that company, because they're afraid they're going to take that certification or that education and then go somewhere else, right?
Yeah, our 900, and I want to be very clear to the viewers, is when you talk about the apprenticeship model, it is an earn while you learn model. So our 900 plus apprentices, for the most part, are all currently employed.
Love that. I love that.
So for somebody, and our utilities are famous for this because they are facing even worse labor shortages than, I'll say, our construction portion of the industry. But they can't react the way the private sector can react.
Right.
Is all these individuals are working. Now, what we do as an organization is we are recruiting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Actually, I just heard the candidate come in. We're getting ready to hire a second member of our workforce development team. So our members said, we want you to do this as an organization. We want you to recruit 24/7 because I have my tool belt on and I'm out there and I can't go out to recruit people. So
Right.
on behalf of our members, we are recruiting. I have one full-time employee right now, getting ready to hire a second. We are out there recruiting on behalf. Now we try and bring a member with us to these recruitment type of events. And for our larger companies, they have different capabilities than most small businesses do. So we are doing that on our behalf. In fact, I just got an email from one of our contractors down in Southern Maryland, down in Hughesville, that just hired an individual that went through our pre-apprenticeship program down in Charles County, Maryland. They opted upon completion to enroll in college. They took less than a year of college, don't know what the institution was, and they realized, you know what, this isn't for me.
Right.
And they hooked up with one of our local contractors, and we anticipate them enrolling in the 4-year apprenticeship program in the fall.
That's cool. How do you find the corporate community? Are they supporting your mission for training?
Define corporate community for me.
The local contractors and low voltage installers and
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, the low voltage industry is evolving. They're not as supportive as of right now.
gotcha. And
The traditional electrical contractors, yes, they understand apprenticeship. The low voltage or systems contractors, it's still a little foreign to them
right.
because, again, everything traditionally for many years has been tied into the industry recognized credential.
Yes, I was gonna say that's an uphill battle right there. And I love the apprenticeship model. And I don't know if you know, there's a group out there called Low Voltage Nation, and I'm on their Facebook page. And somebody asked one of the posts, "How do I get involved in the industry?" And there was a ton of responses there, and the majority of them were put your brand new guy with your most experienced tech, and that's kind of a form of mentoring or apprenticeship. And I love that because again, you have somebody who knows what they're doing, knows the codes, knows the standards, knows the best practices, and they're teaching them. And my dad always used to say, in learning you teach, and teaching you learn, right? So you're making both employees better there, right? Because you're making the new guy learn the new stuff, and the guy who's training them, I shouldn't say guy because we have men and women in our industry, but the person who is training them is it's reinforcing that knowledge in their head, and it's teaching them a new skill set to where they might become a trainer for the company or something. So
Yeah.
there's lots of benefits all the way around for doing it that way, right?
There are the problem that the systems contractors, low voltage contractors are facing though is if you say that word to anybody outside of the construction industry, they don't understand what that means. So where we as an organization are struggling and continue to struggle, and I think that translates into the companies, right?
Right.
These companies, it's not like I'm going to be an electrician. People outside of the industry know what that is. So when we're recruiting, we have much greater success recruiting individuals
Right.
to become electrical apprentices, but the low voltage industry battles within itself
Yes.
to get that. So I think that's one of the takeaways for the audience and for us that are in the industry. We have to do a better job of
Yes.
defining what that looks like to the outside world.
And we've changed that definition 2 or 3 times over the last 3 or 4 decades, right? We used to be the cable guys. Well,
Yep.
we're not. If you say cable guys, people automatically think of cable TV. We do more than that.
Yep.
Then they went to structured cabling, and then they
Yep.
went to information transport system, and now it's another acronym on top of this. We're still trying to figure it out ourselves.
Yep.
It's just
And that plays itself out when it comes to licensing. I don't want to talk about licensing because that's a
no.
can of worms
Yep,
that
yep. Now we're getting in that
everyone's
conversation today.
very passionate about.
Right.
But that's part of the problem is the industry itself has not coalesced together to put their philosophical differences to the side to say we as an industry need to wrap our hands around this
Yeah.
because we're just hurting ourselves.
Yeah, we're getting better, but we still have a long road ahead of us.
Yep.
We truly are. So you mentioned you guys have a low voltage curriculum. I think you said it was a 3-year program. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
just give us a quick high level view of what that looks like?
Yeah, so it's a 3-year apprenticeship program, which means 432 hours of classroom training, which is roughly 144 hours a year. So it's basically 6 months of training. So students, for the most part, start in the fall and finish kind of midwinter. Um, and concurrently, they're working full time and getting paid for it, and they need to complete 6,000 hours of their on the job training or on the job learning. Um, so that's broken up, and we are actually revamping the entire curriculum as we speak. Because what we're recognizing is that people can go to organizations such as NICET and Bixie and they can get industry recognized credentials, but that tends to be short-term training, right?
Mhm.
It's a couple of days, boom, you take your certification exam.
Mhm.
And I call it shock and awe because you're getting a lot of information, and those are awesome training programs.
Yep.
I'm not trying to discourage or denigrate those programs, but a lot of times it is what it is, right? It's short-term training to get that industry recognized credential. Apprenticeship is more in depth.
Yes.
So the individuals are going through the apprenticeship program, and what we've recognized is we want to align the apprenticeship program with the industry recognized credential. So for a portion of the program, we cover fire alarm systems. So the goal is when they complete that module or modules that they can go sit for their NICET level 1, level 2, so on and so forth, right?
Right.
If they're going in and if they part of the curriculum is on their video surveillance, right? Then they're going ahead and getting their video security system technician credential from NICET. Or you go over, on the Big C level side, and you're talking about, your cabling that you mentioned, and they're getting their Big C level 1 or Big C level 2, and so on and
Mhm.
so forth. So right now, what's going on is we're updating it, realigning it, so that there are these step off points for individuals to obtain something short term while still going through the 3-year apprenticeship program. There are other areas where there may not be an industry recognized credential. There's the audio side, there's
Right.
specialized controls, the commercial systems that we're dealing with. There's also, again, have to recognize it, certain states have licensing requirements. So you have to incorporate your NEC into that and your license prep classes in it. You also have your smart homes, right?
Mhm.
So those are, I ticked off most of them. The biggest thing that we're seeing, and this has been a struggle for your traditional electrical contractors, and I see this market continuing to evolve for the low voltage or systems contractors, your POE and LED lighting systems. That is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pain
I,
point.
I got a question about that coming up, but I just want to make one statement real quick before we get too much further along. You mentioned the 6,000 hours.
Mhm.
I can just see I can see you through the radio right now, who's listening to my podcast on the earphones. When you heard that 6,000, your eyes went bing. There's 2,080 work hours in a year, so 6,000 hours is 3 years. So that aligns up. So don't let that 6,000 hours be something to change your mind. And the apprenticeship program, like I said, you got that now. You got that hands-on stuff. That's it.
Well, and most importantly for the employee, it because what we know about younger people, you need to really identify their pathway, right? They want to
Yes.
see how to get from point A to point B.
Right.
So by being part of an apprenticeship program, there are gradual increases based upon them learning for their wages. And that is very important for our young people to recognize that. And everybody's working together. You can always pay above and beyond, but at a minimum, this is required as a registered apprentice. And I'm talking about registered apprenticeship here, not a class here, a class there. This is a structured, federally recognized and state recognized apprenticeship program.
So help clarify me. What's the difference between a registered apprenticeship and an apprenticeship?
A registered apprenticeship program is a program that is approved by the state and or federal government.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And when we were talking about the funding that is now becoming available, most of the funding that is available to help the companies offset their cost of training is structured around a registered apprenticeship program.
And I would imagine it's probably tied to some type of a goal structure, like you just kind of talking about. So as an employee, if you get to choose between a registered apprenticeship program and a non-registered or whatever they call the non-registered one, the registered one, I think you have a better sense of there's more bite to this one than the other one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it ties to pay, quite
Yeah.
frankly. It sets forth what your pay scale, again, at a minimum level. You can always pay above and beyond, but it sets forth a minimum pay
Right.
scale. And this isn't a union or non-union issue, because I know we'll have listeners
Yeah.
who are on both sides of it,
Yeah.
because this enables everybody to be working off the same sheet of music.
Yeah, I'm on both sides of the union and non-union. I've been a union member, I've been management, and I see the advantages and disadvantages to both. I'll never talk bad about one or the other. But I've always said this, especially when we start talking about electricians. I've always been an admirer of their apprenticeship training program. The joint apprenticeship training stuff. I've always been a huge admirer of that, and I've always said I wish the low voltage side would mimic that.
And
You
that's what
know,
we've quite frankly done, Chuck, is my main office here is a 30,000 square foot building. As I mentioned, we're running 900 plus apprentices. you could blindfold somebody, take it off, and they wouldn't know if they were in a union facility or our facility.
Right.
And we've done that on the low voltage side too. So, the knock, again, I don't want to get too political, has always been, if you're not in a union, you're not training. That's simply not the case anymore.
No. I just thought of one additional question.
Sure.
My audience spans the entire country. Matter of fact, it spans the globe. I've got audience members from Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and all that kind of fun stuff. We can't really talk about those because you're a US based kind of thing. So if somebody's listening to this show and they're in Walla Walla, Washington, or Phoenix, Arizona, they're not going to want to come to, Chesapeake, to come to, Maryland to do training. Do they have options where they are?
So as I just shared with the audience, we're completely revamping the 3-year program, and most of our chapters are going to be coming online with it.
So there's chapters all across the U.S. is what you're saying.
So we have chapters in Arizona, a ton. We got like 6 or 7 in Texas, 2 in Florida. In Georgia, we got 2. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, we got like 3 or 4 in Ohio.
Nice.
The Dakotas, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Utah, you name it. We're pretty much.
Where would somebody go to find that information?
Maybe what we can do for our viewers, I'll say it, but maybe you can do a little blurb on it. It's www.ieci.org.
Okay.
And they can locate a chapter that's local to them. We're IEC Chesapeake. Feel free, Chuck, to share my contact information. I get calls from all over the country, all over the world. Like I shared with you, we're talking with folks up in Greenland right now. And as I mentioned, what everybody needs to recognize is wherever we have a U.S. military base or embassy, that is U.S. soil. And it is spec that it has to be done according to NFPA and the NEC.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I sit here and can say I have students all over the world, because at these embassies and bases, our members are performing work.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. You certainly have given me a lot of fodder for thought for future stuff. And I hope somebody listening is now inspired and will reach out and maybe even inquire about some of your programs.
Yeah, we'd love to, especially our young people. Folks, my dad was a dentist. He said to me, "You're never going to become a dentist." I don't think I had the stomach for it, but a lot of times we are guilty as trades workers that we don't promote our industry.
Right.
You don't want to become an electrician. You don't want to become a fire alarm technician, a security. We have to take pride in what we do. Look at what we've accomplished and share that joy. It's still a job, folks. It's still hard work.
Yep.
But we have to take pride in what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let me do the outro real quick and I'll bring you right back. Hold on one second. So that conversation was way more in depth than I originally anticipated. There's so much there that you could have garnered from this conversation. But the key thing I hope that you got from that is training is king. There's a saying from an old poem that I used to love. The poem's called "Don't You Quit." And one of the lines is, "Success is failure turned inside out," meaning we learn from our failures. Training is a way to shortcut that learning. Until next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.